Welcome back to another episode of Digital Dating. I had to think about that for a second. I run 3 podcasts, Digital Dating, and with Anonymous Andrew. And today I have a very, very interesting guest. And I know every episode I say I have a special guest or I got a treat for you tonight. This one, out of the 300 episodes that I have done, I have not covered this topic. And I used to know a lot about it in the urban myths back in the 80s and 90s. What am I talking about? Tonight we have Amy Reiley with me. And Amy Reiley is a specialist in the aphrodisiac world, the foods. And she is a nutrition coach. She has a master's in gastronomy, if I pronounce that right, and she's a massage therapist, but doesn't do much of that. I think you said a lot of that now. And she has appeared on the Nightline, on the Today Show, the CBS Early Show, and Playboy TV, which I don't know if they're still around, but that's a pretty big show to be on. And so, Amy, welcome. Welcome to the
Thank
show.
you. Thank you for that warm and very thorough introduction.
Okay. So, but it was a little confusing because I stumbled on some things. And so, why don't you, in your own words, tell us what it is that you really do and how you got there, and maybe a little story behind it, and we'll go from there.
So, I am considered an expert on aphrodisiac foods. I write aphrodisiac cookbooks, and I work one-on-one with clients who want to learn how to eat for a better sex life. I speak, I consult, and I run a website called eatsomething.sexy.com.
I just realized maybe there could be somebody in the audience that doesn't know what an aphrodisiac is. Can you explain what that is?
So, aphrodisiacs are basically foods that help promote sexual desire. So whether they promote better sexual function or a sex drive, is it a food that turns you on or a food that helps you perform? Either one is considered an aphrodisiac.
Okay. And so, because in my growing up, I'm 60. So I grew up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, except I wasn't sexually active until my late 80s. There was all this gossip. Now, we didn't have social media back then, but it was always rumors in schools, and we would hear things like oysters and white chocolate sometimes. And there were some, I can't remember all of them, but there was a handful of things that the guys would say, hey, give her this and she'll get horny, blah, blah, blah. And that's just boy talk and locker room talk. I want to ask you 2 questions. Is there a definitive list, like a list of 10 foods that are absolutely top 10 that will absolutely turn on the faucet, let's just say? Number 2, is aphrodisiac more an internal thing, so I have to ingest it? Or is it more what I'm looking at? So, for example, I could take a basket of very, very fresh strawberries, and I like to cook. I love to cook. So if I have a date over for dinner one night, this is what I do. And I'll go out and I'll get those little chocolate chip things that you can microwave, and I take the strawberries and I dip them in there, and then I put them in coconut chips, and I serve them on a platter, and it looks so delicious, and it looks so sexy, and it looks so nice. And I've gotten women literally that have poured all over me because I put all this effort into this lovely dessert. Is that considered an aphrodisiac, or that's just artistical creation in the kitchen? And aphrodisiac is really what we put in our bodies.
So I think in that case, it's probably more than anything about the act of service. The idea that you got in the kitchen and made this food and with ingredients that are, loosely associated with being sexy was probably the real turn on. And that's effective, and that's part of using food as an aphrodisiac for sure.
Okay. I
Yeah.
love doing that. That just nothing like dipping strawberries and then sprinkling dipping them in coconut chips,
Okay.
and then you
Now, can
refrigerate
I
them.
please upgrade this for you just a little bit? So you mentioned that you're microwaving the chocolate.
Yeah, they come in these store-bought
Well,
things.
what I was gonna say is to create a chocolate ganache on the stovetop. I can explain to you how to do that very quickly. It's going to
Okay.
be it's going to be far more delicious. Also, I really don't like microwaving chocolate simply because chocolate burns really
Yeah,
easily. And if
it
it
does.
burns, oh, it smells terrible. So you put a metal bowl fit a metal bowl into a small pot, right? You put a metal bowl, or if you happen to own a double boiler, use that. You're going to put water in the bottom. It's going to simmer.
I
That
make
way
candles. I make candles, so I have a
Okay,
double
perfect. So you
steamer.
have a double
Okay.
one. So what I want you to do though is to create a place so that it's got a bath, but the chocolate isn't going to touch the bath because it's sitting in the bowl, right? So you've got water simmering on the bottom, not boiling, just simmering. And then you've got your bowl sitting on top. You're going to put your chocolate in the bowl. The best thing is like finely chopped dark chocolate. If you don't want to cut your own chocolate, that's okay. You can use dark chocolate chips, right? You're going to put that and the same
What
amount.
percentage cocoa?
So
Dark
I
chocolate
just
comes
buy dark
60,
chocolate chips
70, 80%.
and yeah, when I buy dark chocolate I do it with chocolate chips because often I'm in a hurry. Like I want to make it easy for you. So I'll buy they usually sell ones that are 70%. Those are the easiest to find.
Okay.
I've seen some that are
Yep,
higher.
yep,
But yeah.
yep.
70%. This is great. Dark chocolate actually is relatively good for your sex life. It's got a lot of nutrients that are
Yep,
beneficial to your
I've
sex life.
heard that.
So it's a good choice. We're putting it on top of, right, the bowl that's on top of the simmering water. We're putting the chocolate in there. We're also going to add an equal amount of either milk or heavy cream. You choose, either works. You can even put in half and
Okay,
half. You can put in a fat-free half and half if that's all you've got. It's fine.
okay.
Gonna put them in the bowl together and at this point you can usually what we're gonna warm it up slightly, then we're gonna take it off the heat because you still got the simmering water, and you're gonna stir it until the chocolate is completely melted, it's all incorporated, and you have this lovely, luxurious dark chocolate sauce. Easy.
And just
Why are you
dip the
looking at me like that?
strawberries in,
And then you
and
dip your
then
strawberries in, and you're in business. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But we've
Listen,
upgraded this
being the
with dark
single
chocolate.
bachelor life,
Sorry?
yeah, I sometimes make it just for myself on a summer night, or some nights I'll see strawberries on sale, especially when a strawberries like in season, like in sometime in the
Spring.
early spring.
Spring.
I will buy myself a bunch, but just to buy that little thing, pre-made container that you microwave the chocolate. I know it's cheap, it's quick, and but it's not the best. But I think I'll take you up on that. I think because I love dark chocolate. I have Gerald. I think it's Giraldi. Is that how you pronounce it? Dark chocolate in my refrigerator right now. I have 70% Cocoa
Yeah,
Coa.
Ghirardelli.
Cocoa?
Yes,
Is that how it's
70%.
pronounced?
It's
Yeah.
Ghirardelli. It's yeah, yeah, 70% cocoa. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Give it a
Yeah.
try. It's
Okay.
actually
I'm
as
gonna
far as,
try
like,
that.
desserts, as far as sweets go, it's one that's great. It's a great choice because 'cause you're still getting fresh fruit. Yeah, good snack.
But does the dark chocolate and the combination of fresh strawberries and maybe a little coconut, is that once it enters into the system, does it become so? I think what our next uh, chapter or next step would be is to let's identify some of the foods that you recommend
Sure.
for
Yes.
aphrodisiacs.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many. On my website, I have 88 foods that have historically been considered aphrodisiac and why they're aphrodisiac, and then what they can do nutritionally or whatever potential they have beyond just the fact that they folklorically were considered aphrodisiacs. So yeah, I've got 88 of them that I happen to like. And actually I could probably do 100. I just haven't had time.
Okay. And we don't
Yeah.
have time to do 88 or 100. So give me what the top off your head, up top of your head, 5 or 10 that are the most common that maybe a single guy like me is having making dinner. And is that something that a man would, or maybe female,
Mhm.
if she's cooking for the man,
Sure.
would do that on the first date? Obviously, a woman's not going to probably come to his
Right.
apartment
I
on
was
the
going to
first
say,
date, but
I
let's
don't
say
think
the
I would
second.
come over. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no. So let's say second, third, fourth date, whatever. Hey, can I make dinner for you? And they come over. Would that be appropriate to serve? I don't even know what's on the list. So are there
So,
main
okay, so
courses?
here's the thing. So, 2 things about that. First of all, it is actually a great choice, and if you feel comfortable with them yet enough to say, "Oh, this is my aphrodisiac dinner," it's still a great choice because these foods are usually lighter, they're healthier. You're not gonna feel tired. She's not gonna wanna go home as soon as the meal's over because she just wants a nap. You know what I mean? They're all foods that kind of spark energy, spark desire, all of those things. Now, as for a list of them, the really important thing, particularly with dating, again, this kind of goes back to that act of service idea. It's not to pick something that is most famously aphrodisiac, but it's to pick something that the person you're trying to seduce would enjoy, right? It's really all about finding out what they like and presenting that to them.
Okay.
And yes, it's going to
How
be
would
something that has these extra benefits, but it's more important to start with something they're going to enjoy. So, for example, two of my favorite aphrodisiacs, two that I love to talk about and that have a whole lot of reasons why they happen to be aphrodisiac, are oysters and champagne. That being said, my husband hates both. If I served that on a romantic evening, he would go hungry and he'd get hangry with me, basically. So it's not going to work. Even though oysters
and
are
there'd be no
historically
sex that
aphrodisiac
night.
and they're sexy and slippery and they're full of, protein for energy and all of these things, it's just not going to work because he doesn't want to eat them.
No.
So,
And I understand because it took me 25 years or 30 years to eat mussels, oysters, and raw clams. But now I absolutely look at them as a delicacy. And I grew up in the ocean. I live in New York on the South Shore of Long Island. So there's and Fire Island. And so I was brought up out there. And we had fresh clams and fresh oysters and
really?
mussels every day because they were just brought in from the fishing boats right there. So we know oysters have always been on the list. What can you give me some other examples? Other foods?
Absolutely. So we already touched on dark chocolate, which is another food that I love to suggest because it's easy, it's pleasing. And at one point, I did a survey through eatsomething.sexy.com, and we discovered that it was the number one food that people saw as a romantic gift. Like the box of chocolates or bringing someone a chocolate dessert. It is, that is instantly considered from someone, who you're trying to seduce. It's instantly considered a romantic gift. So it's a really nice choice psychologically as well. It's got that, it's got that implication.
Well, Valentine's Day or a birthday, maybe, or I guess
Any
Valentine's
dinner.
Day would really
Yeah.
be
Yeah, but there are lots of foods that you wouldn't probably think are aphrodisiac, but really are. If you want to plan, if you're a meat lover and you want to plan this romantic dinner, I always recommend trying to find wild game, which is
really
yeah, it's high in protein, it's low in saturated fat. So
like
you're getting
venison.
a lot of them like so yeah, bison is fairly high in omega-3 fatty acids as well, which are good for elevating mood. You're getting a lot of extra benefits. So you're getting a good mood, high energy. Yes, venison would be great. It is a little trickier to cook because it has a low fat content. So if you're cooking it, you need to kind of pay a little bit of attention or serve it rare because it will get tough very easily. But that's something I always love to recommend. Stay away from heavy pasta dishes. Heavy pasta dishes are not sexy in any way, right? I mean, yes, some of the ingredients, like a pesto, is actually loaded with aphrodisiac ingredients, believe it or not, basil, pine nuts, garlic, all aphrodisiacs.
Mm. How about like
But
a
a heavy pasta
carbonara?
dish is going to make you want to go to bed.
Okay, really?
Yeah, I mean, not in the right way. Not in that way. It's going to make you want to sleep and the evening's over. Another one that surprises people, it's one of my favorites, is coffee. Coffee is an aphrodisiac. So because of the caffeine, first of all, gives you that sort of spark of energy,
Okay.
particularly if you're meeting someone at the end of a workday. A little bit of coffee, either, in your dessert or a little shot of espresso. A great dessert after an aphrodisiac meal is affogato, which is a scoop of gelato in hot espresso. It's delicious. It's got a lot of sensory, it's a sensory pleasure because it's hot and cold. creamy, acidic, all these things at once. But also the coffee not only gives you that little burst of energy, but coffee is a mood enhancer. It helps put you in a good mood.
Okay. That much I knew. And okay. I want to go back just for a second
Okay.
to the bison, to the venison,
Yeah.
to the game, wild game.
Yes.
We are living in a society where, and it's always been like this, but there you have your vegetarians and strict vegetarians, and then pescatarians and all sorts of vegetarians. And I have dated many women who are vegetarian, and I wouldn't know how to cook a vegetarian meal. So got to the third, fourth date and I invited her home, I would go. I would have to like maybe even call you and say, "What do I do?
I
Like,
was
how
gonna
do
say
I
I have
deal?"
recipes for that.
Which I'm sure you do. But I cannot put venison or bison in front of a woman, especially let's say she even eats meat. Let's say she does eat meat. They if once they hear that it's been shot or because bison and venison are shot are still wild game that you have to get a license to hunt for, like turkey and quail and things like that. I'm a hunter and I have hunted, and I only hunt if it's necessary. And my sister lives in Pennsylvania, and we go out there and we hunt in hunting season. And they're out there, they store their meat, so that's how they get through the winter. But if I put a piece of bison or venison on a plate in front of a woman who I'm trying to impress, and I said, "Oh, that was shot last week by my sister," I think she'd go running out of the house screaming.
Well, like I said, the first thing you do is think about the other person
Correct.
and what would be appropriate for them.
Okay.
There is, of course, farm bison, which still has
Yes.
nutritional
Yep.
benefits, and
I
that
see it
is
in my
probably
supermarket.
a safer choice, but not all women would go running and screaming out the door.
Okay. No, I know there's some women
Well, maybe not lead with shooting it, but maybe lead with, "This was ours, and my sister has put it down for the has it for the winter, and blah, blah,
yeah.
blah, and she made me these sausages," or whatever. Maybe not sausage, but
No, well, she does make sausage too. I mean, they
I
take
figured
the
she did. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I understand.
she's up in the boonies. Her and her husband are they live off the land. It's amazing. And it's a beautiful life they have up there. It's so peaceful. So but okay, well, all right, so let's just well, it's good to know that like fresh game is good for that. But let's just say that for the urban folk, that's probably not going to be, it's like I'm in New York City.
Seafood is a wonderful choice.
Okay, now what kind of seafood? Because that's a broad statement.
So all seafood is considered aphrodisiac because Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, was supposed to be delivered from the sea. I think it was in a scallop shell, actually. And so, therefore, historically, throughout all of Western culture, seafood has been considered aphrodisiac. I created for eatsomething.sexy.com, I created lists of the 10 best foods for women and the 10 best foods for men. And I actually put salmon on the list for men. Now, this is eating for your own sexual health. So it's not just a food for a romantic evening, but it's a food that's a really smart choice for men to eat for sexual health, for the nutrition that they need, for things like muscle mass, testosterone production, energy, etc. I also put scallops on the list for women. So, not to say that, you have to limit your choice to scallops or salmon, but since we're talking about it, like, well, which seafood? Well, since they're all considered aphrodisiacs, some have a little more, a little additional benefits.
You mentioned the scallops because of aphrodisiac. Is that so? That's been. Let me ask you: is a lot of this been scientifically proven in a clinic? So, like, people
So
were fed something, and then also fed a placebo, and then they were tested if they were feeling sexually like horny at the end. Has this been tested?
so there have been studies where they measure blood flow.
To where? To the
And
brain, to the breast, to the
no, in
genitals?
the nether regions, yeah.
Okay.
There have been studies that have done that. Now the problem is, of course, there are other influences, right? It may not necessarily just be the food. There was one study on aromas that used both awake and sleeping.
Okay.
subjects. So that perhaps is a bit more conclusive. However, that's not ingesting it. Most of what I talk about in terms of beneficial would be related to beneficial to your sexual health. And we can look at that from a nutritional standpoint.
Okay. By the way, I have salmon, and I kid you not, 7 days a week.
Wow.
I go to my fish market. So I'm an alcoholic in recovery, and I'm 10 years over sober, and I had heart problems, pancreatus problems, liver problems 10, 15 years ago. So I decided, and I have grandchildren. So I decided if I want to live long and I want to see my grandchildren, and I have three also adult children, if I want to live long, I got to. So I was smoking, I was drinking, I was doing drugs, blah, blah, blah. Got off it all, cleaned out. I'm detoxed, I'm clean. And then, but my doctors kept looking at my blood panels. What do you call those? The comprehensive panels. And my cholesterol and my A1C was still up here, up here, up here, even though I wasn't, I stopped fast foods. And so I decided to go no red meat. I
Mhm,
stopped steak and I stopped
mhm.
hamburgers and I stopped pork and I miss it oh my god, I miss bacon so much. I treated myself, which is interesting to because you mentioned scallops. I came across a little thing where scallops were wrapped in bacon. You probably seen that. Oh my god, how good they are! And I treated myself a couple nights ago, but that was just like I saw it in the supermarket and it's frozen and probably processed. Uh, I decided to go completely pescatarian, and there's a couple of fish market. Again, I live on the South Shore, and fish markets are all over. And I go for the fresh salmon every week. I walk into the fish market and I look at what's on sale, but what's fresh and what looks good. And I watch him take it out, and he cuts them into fillets, takes the skin off, and I air fry that with some other, like I have make zucchini pancakes and whatever. That's what I eat 7 nights a week. And then I have a whole diet that I'm following, and it's working because I haven't been
Wonderful.
sick in
Yeah.
years. The problem is I don't know that I'm getting horny. I'm 65, and even though I'm single and I'm looking for romance, 3 or 4 years ago, when I was in a relationship, this was like the priority on my mind. Now it's not, and
Mm,
I don't know if that's just age or loneliness or just like I don't have someone in my life right now. I'm not one of those to go out and have one night stands, go on dates, and just try to get the woman in bed. I'm not like that. I'm a gentleman. I'm looking for a partner to live my life out and happiness and yada yada yada. So I just wanted to mention that the salmon was something that I eat every day. And what's interesting is I had my testosterone checked.
mhm.
My testosterone at 60 years old was 900 when it should be like 100 for a man my age.
And what is it now?
Well, that was 5 years ago, so
Yeah.
I think I haven't had it checked.
Oh, you haven't. Okay.
But 900 at 60 years old,
Oh, no.
that's high, very high.
Yes, I don't know. I was just curious if that changed with the diet change.
Well, probably there's somebody I go to and like a nutritionist, and she does all these blood works and
Mhm.
looks for different things. So, okay, well, we're getting a little off track. So, give me some more examples of aphrodisiacs, and I guess what do people come to you for?
What do people come to me for? So typically people will find me they often find me through my cookbooks. So I have written 3 nationally distributed cookbooks. Fork Me, Spoon Me was the first, and my most recent book is Eat Cake Naked, which is I did an experiment. I decided to do ebook only. I just got really tired of, you know, publishing in
The
paper and storing
publications.
things and shipping from China. So I did an ebook only. And that book is all desserts, Eat Cake Naked. And it's all
Okay.
desserts that have elements to help support your sex life. So a lot of people find me that way, and then they come follow me. I have a mailing list. They also find me through my website. People are either coming looking for information on sexual health, or they're looking for ideas for date night or romance. And that's where how people find me.
Two more questions popped in. So I'm going on a date tomorrow night, hypothetically, and I said to her, "Do you, what kind of cuisine would you like tomorrow night? You want Chinese? You want Italian American? You want whatever?" And she says to me, surprise me. Okay, I'm going to bring her to a restaurant and she gets to choose her own food. I am now making a list. So I got scallops, I got venison, bison, I got chocolate, I got the whole
Mhm.
list going here. But how am I going to get her to eat these things? So on the date, number one, like I hand her a list and go, these are all aphrodisiacs. Eat these tonight and we'll have a
So
fun
no,
time tonight. No.
I would not recommend that. So if you are going out to dinner, like I have given suggestions for like couples if you're going out to dinner, and these are great strategies and these are great ingredients. If this is an early in your dating, it may be you may just drop a little line like, oh, scallops. I hear those are an aphrodisiac, something fun. And you yourself try to choose something that's lighter to eat would be my if I gave you one tip for going to a restaurant, choose something a little lighter. Maybe, and then if you're going to have dessert, maybe share a dessert so that, you don't have indigestion by the end of the meal.
No.
Oftentimes, restaurant portions can be huge and you just
My
stuff
God. Yeah.
yourself. Yeah. So
Yeah.
keep it light,
They
share
come out with
things.
these plates this big.
Yeah. If there's like an
Okay.
appetizer that you can share, that can be very romantic. Maybe try to steer her toward picking that or try to share
I
a
do that a
dessert.
lot. Yeah.
Can be romantic too. So those are ideas of like where you can keep the meal a little less heavy and also potentially have a moment for romance. So, yeah.
Is there any science behind what is there a common so you've mentioned scallops, you mentioned bison, which is you said wild game protein, then you mentioned dark chocolate. Is there a science in there is there a common denominator of what's in these foods that is a that is integrating with our chemistry to make our brains be horny. So, what's the
So
science behind this?
okay, so not necessarily. They may not boost your desire. I focus on foods that support your sex life in some way. And that way may be supporting your sexual health. So they improve your energy and performance potentially. Not always. Some yes, some do can actually improve sex drive. Some of them. As I mentioned, some have aromas that can be a turn on. For some men, the scent of vanilla, like that cookie baking scent, is a turn on.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I walk into a kitchen of chocolate chip cookies being baked or, really any kind of cookies, I'm a sucker for
Mhm.
that, and that's my aphrodisiac.
Yeah.
I have a sweet tooth, even though I just told you I'm trying to stay away from all that. If I walk into and now with Christmas here, in the office I work in, everybody's bringing the gift baskets in, and it's just all that junk food in there. But
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, are legumes or nuts any aphrodisiacs? Pistachios, walnuts, pecans, cashews?
So
Yes,
almonds happen to be on my list of the 10 best foods for men, and
I'm an almond freak.
both peanuts and lentils are on my list for women.
Mm, lentils I
Honestly,
could do without, but
I'm gonna be
okay.
straight with you. A lot of these foods that I recommend, like for sexual health, are simply foods. I mean, they're just straight up good for you. A lot of them are just really nutritionally dense foods, like a lentil, right? And so your whole body is going to benefit from a lot of the foods that are considered aphrodisiacs. And yeah, your sex drive may improve, but that could just be because your body was starving for nutrition. I mean, that actually happens sometimes, or a
Right.
particular nutrient. Yeah.
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 Mm,
So there you go.
okay. I'm an almond butter. I've
Mm.
discovered almond butter. I'm making these smoothies now in the morning, and ChatGPT created a smoothie for me with protein, with chia seeds, and all bunch of stuff. And one of them, she said, put like a healthy tablespoon of almond butter, and what a difference! And it's such a delicious, delicious. But I found out, and I don't know how much you know about this, but you got to be careful, like some of these foods that because especially people like my age. you can get kidney stones from. So, like I heard that almond milk, almond butter, almonds themselves, anything with almonds in them have a high concentration of citrate. I think it's I'm not know if I'm pronouncing it
Mhm.
right, but can build up in the kidneys and calcify, and that's what a kidney stone becomes. So just you got to be careful of the intake of how much you take of this stuff. At least if you hydrate enough, I was told if you hydrate, you're going to be okay. It's
Yeah,
just if you
well, I
don't
mean,
hydrate. So
hydration is kind of the secret to everything, right? Eating,
it is.
don't eat only one food. Don't eat too much of any one food, and stay
No.
hydrated. It's pretty
Yeah.
simple.
Well, water is the elixir of life. It really is. And a lot of people, but you know what's interesting? And I don't like the taste of water. I've never
Really?
liked it. And it like I have a Poland Spring here and I will drink it because I'm thirsty. But when I can, they have these botanical iced tea bags now that are not they're herbal. So you can put them in the thermos or something, and it's like they got mango, coconut, lemon, acai. How do you pronounce that? Acai
Acai.
and blueberries. Yeah, and it makes the water taste, but there's no sugar. It's just
Right,
simply
right, right, right.
the spice. Yeah,
You know,
and
anything that
it
gets you
makes
drinking more water is great. I
without the
actually one
sugar.
of Well, actually, one of my coaches, when I was getting my nutrition coaching certification, one of my instructors, she doesn't like to drink water either. And she said, listen, it's not the best, but it gets me drinking my water. I put it like a little spoonful of Crystal Light in, like a quarter serving of Crystal Light.
Uh,
I
yeah, there's
mean,
no
and
sugar in that. It's
honestly though,
artificial
it's like
sugar.
anything that gets you drinking
To
the water.
Yeah,
So,
I have no problem with that. That has probably the stevia leaf in it, which I don't do well with, but some people do. So it's I just don't like water. It's the strangest thing. But when I flavor it with something that's non-sugar, non-carbonated, blah blah blah, I do very well with it. So okay, we just have a few minutes left. Give me a couple of more foods because you had 88 on there, and I think we
I
only
do.
have scratched maybe 10.
I warned you, there's 88. Pomegranate, there's been a ton of study about pomegranate, particularly for men, is linked with a healthy testosterone production, which you don't need apparently, but some men do. I
Oh,
will say though that most of the studies were paid for by pomegranate juice companies. So, sometimes you have to look at the
okay, but
source.
no, we're
But
good.
there's a tremendous amount of. I mentioned garlic is actually an aphrodisiac. Now, you both, if this is on date night, you both need to enjoy the garlic together, right? Otherwise, somebody smells.
Mhm.
Same thing with
Yes.
asparagus, also aphrodisiac, but it gets weird.
God, my mother used to serve asparagus, and I choked on it. It's so
Wow,
stringy
it's
and
my
so bitter,
favorite green vegetable. I love it.
and I hear that all the time. Every time I mention that, the other person says, "My favorite," and I just cannot stomach it, but I eat so many other vegetables. Big broccoli fan, big spinach fan. I could go a whole lot. Zucchini and squash but no, asparagus, I just can't get down. I don't know.
Herbs and
So,
spices, so we talked about vanilla. Herbs and spices are
yeah.
great. Chili peppers, one of my
How about
favorites. That's a date food.
yeah?
That's a date
Love
food
chili
because
peppers.
chilies make your tongue tingle. Your lips will plump up a little bit. You'll seem more kissable. Your cheeks may flush, which I've been told someone who's attracted to you, it will like psychologically relate to a sexual flush. They'll get turned on by seeing your flushed cheeks. Yeah, chilies are the best. Plus, they warm
No
up your
kidding.
body. You're more ready to tear off your clothes. That's a good one. If you can't tolerate the heat of chili, I always recommend ginger because that's also very warming and a little bit tongue
I love
tingly.
ginger. Yeah, I
Ginger's
love
delicious.
ginger.
It's fabulous. Can't go wrong with ginger.
Big fan of ginger. I just had a question for you. Can't think of it. It was right before garlic and after chili peppers. It'll come back to me. Yeah, can't think of it. Okay. All right. Amy, tell us where we can find you online.
Sure.
Where would you like my audience to go look for you and look up your information and get the whole list of the
Right? All those
the rest of
88,
the 88 foods?
the 88 aphrodisiacs. So go to eatsomethingsexy.com. And if you go to eatsomethingsexy.com/snack, you can get my free guide to my favorite snack foods that are great for sexual health, great for your sex life, great for seducing someone with a little snack. They're an upgrade from like what you'll get from a vending machine. So eatsomething.sexy.com/snack.
All right. One more question I'm going to ask, and I'm going to put you on the spot on this one, only because it just the term aphrodisiacs when I was growing up was a myth, even though I know it comes from Greek mythology, and I know throughout the centuries everybody has claimed in each culture they'll claim which one works for them.
Right.
These are known. So these 88 items that, and you said you could probably come up with 100. These are real. If I'm cooking something for somebody and I said to her, when you said chili pepper, for example, could it be any chili? Not chili, any pepper, like a green, yellow, red?
So,
Does it
well,
have
they're
to be
not gonna
chili?
have
Does it
the
have to
same
be a
effect.
hot?
You need the capsaicin, the spicy thing, the spicy element,
Okay,
right?
okay, okay, gotcha. Okay, and you said any seafood, right?
Sure.
So if I made like a shrimp scampi, I
Mhm.
would be using garlic and I'd be using
Yep.
shrimp and
Yes.
pasta and is there any in butter or any dairy? Is there
Well,
any
butter's a pleasure. But I mean, for some people, butter is probably in fact, I'm reading a book right now about how butter is a turn on. I wouldn't, it's obviously it's not good for you, so don't overdo it.
butter can be sexy if it's
Yeah,
served right.
yeah,
It can be very
exactly.
sexy
I'm
on the
not gonna deny that
table.
one. Yeah.
It's delicious and yeah, no, I can eat butter all night. Love it. I'll lose my cholesterol count. So, Amy, any last thoughts that you would like to leave the audience with? And tell us anything else about your practice, and
I
then we'll
want them
say
to go
goodbye.
I want them to go discover those 88 aphrodisiacs for themselves and figure out which ones work for them because we're all a little bit different and, we're all gonna have our own favorites. So
Not
go discover.
not everybody's going to be able to eat all this food. No, like I'm not going to eat asparagus, so I don't. But I will eat like I'll eat a whole jar of almond butter in one day, which is not healthy, but because it's a lot of fat. Almond butter is very good for you, but it's just very,
That's a
very,
lot of
very
almond butter.
fat. You got all the good fats. It's like 1,000 calories in the jar. So, Amy, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a delight, a little bit of a diversion from what we usually cover. But like I said, for 300 episodes, I never covered aphrodisiacs, and I never thought of it. And your profile came up, and I said, yeah, we need to look into this. So thank you so much for coming on and explaining to us what it's
Well,
all about.
thank
Because in
you for
my
letting
mind, it was
me
a myth.
I mean, thanks for letting me be your first.
Yeah. Okay. You popped my cherry on aphrodisiac. So, Amy, thank you very much. We'll talk to you again. All right,
I
everybody.
think you're blushing.
I'll put all your information in the show notes and we'll send everybody to your website. All right.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.